Nice faces.
Good morning. I think I'm supposed to touch this green button and it'll advance. Yes, okay. Thank you for the women in the audience. We are definitely not professional speakers, and it's quite an honor to be here at EcoFarm. And we see some of our friends from Nevada County here, and what a blessing to have you here, amigo, this morning. Thank you for making it. I'm going to, in the background, go through a series of slides that are of our farm as Lisa and I sort of tag team and answer some questions that were provided to us before we came here today. There's sort of three basic questions, and so we'll try to go through them as quickly as we can. The first question is why we started farming. The second question is, what were the challenges that we were overcoming during the sort of almost 20 years we were farming? And lastly, sort of what inspires us to continue farming? So let me just start from the beginning, which is why we started farming, and specifically why I started farming. Or let me just back up for just 1 second and say that in the introduction, we did have row crops and a CSA, but now we've scaled back and we have just dairy cows and compost and an orchard. So as you see these pictures, you'll see some of the stuff that happened in the past. So this is obviously some of our row crops. So anyway, why I originally got into farming was when I was in my 20s, my mother died of breast cancer, and it was a very, obviously very personal, upsetting thing for me. And I felt at that point in my life, even though I had already gotten my degree in biology and I had worked in a laboratory, I felt a very deep personal calling to actually step out of the laboratory and move deeper into the world of nature to try to heal what I perceived, and I think is definitely true, is our toxic environment. And so that was a very deep, important thing for me. And so as Lisa and I started the farm, it became more and more important for me because I came from a place of relative privilege, that I felt like it was a sacrifice that I could give to our community and to the greater good to work as hard as I could to make my contribution to making this a better world.
For me, obviously, if you heard from my past, I kind of like hard work. Oh, sorry. As you could hear from my past, I really am a crazy nut for hard work. It somehow brings me, it fills my heart and fills my soul. So for me, I like the challenge of the conditions of farming push you to interact with nature and animals and plants and human beings in such a community way that it forces you to carry in your heart a level of integrity that you hope imbues into your food, which when those people eat it, they carry that forward. So for me, that's kind of why the switch from working hard being a firefighter and a trail maintenance person to farming and growing food.
So then what were the challenges that
So some of the challenges in the beginning were obviously money, because we had to switch from working to being farmers, and how are we going to manage to stay on a piece of property? So we came up with a creative idea that if we offered food to a group of people who were really into eating, that they could give us feedback on if our idea would work, because I had already worked on a vegetable farm previously and had realized that I liked to eat vegetables, but I didn't really want to farm vegetables. So what other thing could I participate in farming? So we invited these people to eat our food for 6 months, and in trade, they had to give us really honest feedback. We all sat in a group And they gave us honest feedback about how it was presented, how it was packaged, how did they get enough information, would it work with the other food that they were getting from farmers markets or other CSAs. And then that turned, those 6 initial people turned into 30 people, and the farm grew from there. It was a magical flower blossoming of our community stepping forward to support us to grow them food. So some other challenges, a few other challenges were that we're 2 women. It was hard to be taken seriously that we wanted to farm, and we had to say, even though people were telling us you can't do that, you can't grow that here, we were like, yeah, right, whatever, and we grew it anyway, and we just did whatever we could do to make sure that it was growing in the ground. And then at the same time, there's a lot of infrastructure that happens with a farm, and you can't hire that out. You've got to figure that out for yourself. So I just said, the heck with this, I'm going to learn how to build these things, and just started building things. We built, because we were doing dried seeds and edible grains, we had to figure out how are we going to get these seeds and beans out of their holes in an efficient manner instead of like stomping on pillowcases or something. So there was nothing out there that was on the scale that we were at, because we were farming around 3 acres on the ground in row crops. So there was no machinery that could really go through. We had to figure out a way. So I built us a thresher, which any one of you in this room I know could do it. It's, you just get a drawing and start figuring it out. So that's what I did. And you could put the stuff in the top and went through a set of screens in the back, and then you could just winnow it. So challenges like that were some of our big challenges. You have any other challenges? Standing here is a huge challenge.
We're normally just talking to our cows and pigs every day, so it's a little bit overwhelming to talk to these Homo sapiens out here. Yeah, so I should speak actually honestly also to, I think all of us that have been farming for over 10 years ultimately meet some very, very difficult challenges besides monetary challenges, besides lack of education or maybe lack of role models. It seems like Mother Nature always comes back to challenge you to sort of, as almost an initiation, to make sure you're ready for this particular kind of commitment. So as we were expanding and cruising along, in probably the 4th or 5th year of our farming, and as a lot of you know, when you're farming, that is definitely what you're doing. You're starting to expand. You're moving into more land. We ultimately had about 4 or 5 acres in row crop production on top of our orchards and dairy and all the other animals that we were growing for harvesting. I was confronted with, and Lisa as well, with the terrible diagnosis that we've been grappling with ever since, and that is I was diagnosed with a very rare eye disease that slowly is robbing me of my vision. And so this has been a very difficult challenge because we expanded in such an amazing way, and now we have to confront the possibilities of what a farm looks like for a person who visually won't be able to see in probably a couple of years. So that's been a very interesting, difficult challenge, but we both realize that we love, when you farm for so long, it becomes so deeply, deeply in your blood that you can't give it up. So we've faced this challenge head on, and we've constructed ways to work around my limitations and not to overburden Lisa with the gift of seeing that she still has and continue onward. So I felt like it was a very integritous thing to do is to bring to you today. Actually, I think probably a lot of you as well are facing difficult challenge too. And on top of that, I would like to say that to a certain degree, it's a blessing to be able to deal with such a challenge and as farmers to not continuously push ourselves, to come to a point of balance in our lives, and realize that it's okay as you're moving into your 50s to not work so incredibly hard like you did when you were in your 30s and 40s. Yeah. So to answer the last question is why we continue to farm, because I think to a certain degree maybe it would be easier for Lisa and I to pack up our bags and move here and go to the beach every day. And I could have my seeing eye dog and we could just wander around and go to the movies or something.
You can't go to the movies.
Right? But the thing is that this idea of working with nature and cultivating so deeply this world that we are trying to create, it gets so deeply in you that you cannot let go. And so this is why I continue to farm, is to give to all of you, to give to our community in Grass Valley, and to obviously give to the world a more beautiful vision of what we can create on this planet. Do you want to use my notes?
No, I was just going to say that I wanted to just honor her for a second, and that was that, the success of our farm is actually, it is the two of us. It's the link between how we bounce off of each other. So we allowed each other to be who they were, as scary as that is, to allow those people to be who they are, but also revel in what they can bring. And those two differences came together to create Fulcrum Farm. It's what made it be this amazing thing. So even though Marnie's losing her eyesight, the journey that we're going on now, I have to tell you there are senses that she's gaining from losing her eyesight that are going to other places, that are opening up and creating new ways of looking at farming, hearing different things, and touching and smelling things in a different way. There's things that she notices now that I don't notice because I have my sight. So it's a great example of all of us as farmers are always seeing these challenges and these things changing, and if we grab them head on and really take them in, beautiful things can come from them. So that's why I say I'm in this, like, if I had to stop farming, you might as well cut my arm off. I can't even imagine not farming. So yeah, we're just gonna keep on doing it. Is that it?
He's saying we have more time, but we... Can you see we're edging towards the getting off the stage?
Somebody else might want some more time.
Yeah, okay. We're fine.